Hello, I'm Debbie Foreman. Welcome back to another episode of GAPCAST. This is where we talk about the gaps that hinder progress. And today we've been talking recently about legacy impact, and legacy building. And today we have a special guest who I'm very proud and very happy to have on this second day of Pesach. Let me introduce you to Pejman Gabayan, who is here with us. And I'd like to explain a little bit. Welcome, PJ. Are you
Thank you.
there? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, welcome,
Thank you.
PJ. Welcome to another episode of GapCast. So I want to kind of walk our viewers through this. You and I met at the Culver City Biz Network. So first of all, shout out to the Culver City Biz Network, who's doing a phenomenal job in promoting businesses in Culver City. And you're not local to Culver City, but you're always there. And you were there before me.
Yeah.
And the day we met, you blew the roof off the house. You knocked my socks off. I'm not quite sure what expression to use, because you talked about the legacy that your family has built through trauma, trials, and tribulations. And it was a story that touched my soul, that made me proud for the journey that you and your family have been through.
Thank you.
And it's a story of literally, and I bring this up on the second day of Pesach because you're a Persian Jew that left Iran. We're in the middle of the Iran conflict right now. We're on the second day of Pesach, and it's the story of freedom that we're currently going through. Our people, our tribe. Not everybody's Jewish, but it's still the story of the leaving hard times, going through the desert, finding your way to freedom, and rebuilding a life. And we're telling that story now, just as your people are going through hardships, as the United States is watching or helping to bridge into that, to fill a gap of people that have been withheld. But you guys had a story because you were able to manage to escape. And that story is a legacy. And you guys built a legacy, a family legacy around it. And I contacted you because we're doing on May 2nd the Legacy by Design workshop for seasoned women in that sandwich generation that are on one side taking care of family or younger generation, on the other side taking care of the older generation, and have been working for 35 years, and are now, instead of spinning their wheels, it's time to build their legacies. And when we talk about legacy, and you brought all three of these up when you told your story, you talk impact legacy. What impact was your family able to make? How did that happen? What was the valley that you went through it? Number two, generational wealth legacy. And the third is family legacy. So I wanted to know if you could go back and kind of tell the story again. But also, one of the questions I have is when you tell it, our workshop is for women, and you're not a woman, but you had strong women backing that story. So can you kind of incorporate what the role of the women in your life were at the time as you were going through that?
Yeah. Basically, we immigrated from Iran in 1988 and arrived. We left Iran in 87, got to the U.S. in June of 88. And during the time where I was born, 1979, one of my family members had left Iran. And so my dad was sending money to him. So when we come here, we have something to, fall back on. And when we got to the U.S. in June of 88, that family member just said there's no money. He didn't send anything. And basically, we had nothing. So we were living with my younger uncle. We moved in with him in a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment with 9 people. And, I remember sleeping on the floor next to my parents and my brother. My grandparents had their own room, and my uncle and his girlfriend had another room in that apartment. And once we arrived, my uncle was my young uncle. He had a dealership, a car dealership. He left his partner and partnered up with my dad. And then they started buying and selling exotic cars in 1989. And about 2 years later, about a year later, excuse me, they opened their first body shop. So basically, my young uncle helped us so much in getting back on our feet. And again, when we came here to the US, we had nothing but just bags of clothes. That's it. Everything else was either taken in Iran by the government or my dad had sent it here to his family members, which they took. So it's very traumatic for parents to go to a country where they don't speak any English. They have no idea what's going on with two young children. I was 7 at the time, and my brother was 2. So, being a father myself, I don't know how I would do what they did if I was in their shoes today. And as you can see now with the war in Iran, the regime is just corrupted. The people are beautiful. The atmosphere, the food, the, the sightings. It's a beautiful country from what I remember. But the regime has to go because they're oppressing people of their rights of basic living.
So then what happened? There was a story about the house and the deed on the house.
Yeah, once my dad opened the first body shop with my younger uncle, a little while after that, they bought their first home through friends, trusted friends supposedly, and 15 years later, we wanted to refinance the property, which at that point, I was a mortgage broker. And when we pulled the title on the property, we realized my parents were not even the owner of the property, meaning the people they trusted early 90s to help them buy the property actually, put them through a fraud where they had my parents transfer the deed to them. So my parents were paying a mortgage on a property they didn't own. Fast forward about 2 years after getting a couple of attorneys, spending a couple $100,000 of attorney fees, I was able to put the notary, the realtor, and the lender all in jail. We were able to consume the property at 100% ownership, and we still have that property today. And this was one of the main reasons why I stayed in the mortgage lending business, is to help people with their finances and making sure they don't experience the horrible, horrible experiences my family went through. And here we are now. I'm a mortgage broker, and I also co-own the body shops with my younger uncle, who was my dad's partner. My dad retired about 10 years ago, and I basically, became partners with my uncle, younger uncle, and I love doing both.
To our viewers, I'm going to talk about two things, okay? And then I'm going to have you chime in on it, all right? And the first one that I'm going to talk about is I want to define. You got Paulo, hold on one sec. You're going to cut this part out because my piece of paper is falling down. Fucking A. Paulo, cut this out. All right, there we go. Back in. I'm going to define first 2 words. One is legacy, okay? Because then I want you to kind of, based on this definition, I want you to define how this resonates with you as a legacy from going through these hardships to where you are today. And then the second one I'm going to define is what an impact is, all right? And how we build impact. And then I want to try to have you kind of go back through that journey of looking at these 2 definitions and then trying to pull them back out. Okay, here we go. So what is a legacy? And everybody, you hear the word and it sounds like grandeur, but legacy is nothing more what endures after your actions. It's the impact you leave, the values you transmit, and the change you set in motion beyond your own time. So you said your father has already left, but he started that legacy and you've carried it on, Lador Vador. In clear terms, legacy is not just what you have or achieve. It's what you build that others can use or grow. So your family built, they're able to use it and grow on it, but so is our consumers, society, community. It's the model that others adopt or repeat. So what models have you guys created that can be repeated or adopted? And what continues even when you are no longer present? So your dad's no longer present in the body shop, but what happens to you when you're no longer present? How is that legacy going to continue? And to distinguish that, it's different than inheritance, which is what you leave for or to the people in your life. It's different than reputation, which is what people say about you, because legacy is what lives through others because of you. And you've done a lot, PJ.
Thank you.
Legacy can be personal, it can be professional, it can be cultural, societal, intangible, and tangible. But most of all, legacy is intentional continuity, the bridge between what mattered to you and what becomes possible for others because you mattered, because you matter. And you matter a lot. You matter to networks, you matter to community, you matter to your businesses, you matter to your clients, you matter to your family, to your children, to the Jewish community. And so when we talk about legacy, it's literally building and building and building to be able to live through the next generation. But legacy isn't something people learn to build for the most part. You either struggle through it or you learn to do it by design, which is what we're doing on May 2nd. The other thing is impact. And people have a hard saying, oh, he made an impact on me. I have an impact. This made an impact. But what is an impact? Impact is defined by, first of all, what that higher purpose is. And it's divided into two segments: results and outcomes. The results are measurable because they're objective. The outcomes, they're subjective. It's what matters. And so when you have what matters and that's measurable, then you can create the definition of the impact. So to do impact legacy and to design it, instead of having to go through all the trials and tribulations that PJ and his family went through, you can actually learn to avoid the problems, to grow the impact, and to build the legacy. So my question, PJ, is look back at your mother and the other women in your life when you were going through that whole legacy building. How did they, were they the rocks that held everything together? If they had had resources, how would it change things? What could have been better? And how did you grow? My big question is, how did you gather the strength and the courage to always be at the forefront?
You know, women have a special gift and they're nurturers. For my father, my uncle, myself, we were all raised by amazing women, whether it's my parents, my mom, my grandparents, my aunts that lived in around the point. And so being around amazing women, and being nurtured in a certain way, it helps you grow to be the person you want to be. That's why I know I'm such a giving person. I'm very kind-hearted, very caring. It's because of the uprising that women had in my life, in my, especially my early childhood. When all these things were happening with the Shah being exiled in 1979 and my dad lost his factory in Iran, it was my mother that was there for him, that nurtured him, had his back. It was my grandmother. It was the mother of my mom, who was my father's, mother-in-law. Their aunts, all the women in their lives um, had a huge impact on keeping things together like a glue. And I believe that, like I said, women have this special gift of nurturing, and when they want to nurture, they do the best work of helping people grow. So yes, so that's how legacies are born. Legacies are actually built. Legacies are built by having strong women in your foundation in your life, and that's the foundation that my father had, my younger uncle, myself, is to have a foundation where the women around you in your life, whether it could be your mom, your sister, your aunt, a grandmother. Um, they're there for you. Like I said before, women have a special gift of nurturing. And I think through nurturing, you build the legacy and you build the future. Is to always have a strong woman behind your back.
And so you're talking about it from the standpoint of you and and the men in your family being able to build this legacy. Now here's the question. What resources did the women in your life have to be able to build their own legacy?
The women in my life, from my childhood era till now, are women, such as my mom, my grandparents, that of course have passed away, unfortunately. But the way my mom was raised, the way my grandma, and grandpa were raised, my aunts, they were nurtured by their parents and their siblings. Is to always be helpful, to always be positive, to always look at the light at the end of the tunnel. And from every negative situation, what can we do to turn it into a positive, right? Because if something negative happening, you could continue for it to be negative, talk about negativity, and it's not ever going to go anywhere. you have to learn how to change or flip that negativity into a positive outcome. And that takes time. It takes uh, lots of brain power and, of course, nurturing. And that's the most important thing that I think I had in my life. I was raised by amazing women, my cousins, my aunts, my grandmas, my mom. And having a strong foundation as a child, I think, shapes the future that you can contribute to. And the legacy continues.
Do you agree or with this statement that women over, let's say 50 plus, in this age range, more or less, give or take, were raised with a series of societal taboos, and those taboos kept them from being able to put their thoughts out in a structured manner that confronts the changes of society?
Absolutely. I think that there's a big stigma with in the world, especially in the US, that men are better than women, and I disagree. I think everybody is amazing. Everybody has a gift that they can offer, and unfortunately, a lot of individuals um, don't see that in some women. They think that a woman cannot do a man's job, and I disagree. I think in most cases, women can do a better job than men. In many cases, I think women are multitaskers, men aren't. And I've seen that through my mom, my grandma, my aunts, my cousins. Meaning multitasking, raising a family, raising your children, keeping your husband happy, and running a business. These are called multitasks, and men can't do that. You know,
Yeah, I agree. Well,
that's
they
where the gift
can, but
is.
not. It's not as frequent. They
Uh,
can, but not as frequent.
exactly.
So,
That's what I meant.
yeah, yeah. So, PJ, my last two questions: if the women that had nurtured you had also had access to a safe environment, with framework, with structure and guidance, to be able to make it through easier, safer, bolder, brighter, do you believe it would have been an asset to them?
Absolutely, absolutely. But I am where I am today because of the women in my life. My success comes from the women that raised me. And again, my dad is a wonderful man. He did a great job raising me as well. But it was during the time I was a child, he was working. So I was always around my cousins, my mom, my aunts, my grandparents, my grandmas. So those are the people that truly raised me while my dad was working. And I think that
How would
made a huge impact.
how how would it have how would the women in your life been easier or better if they had had access to breaking these taboos, if they had had access to knowing how to build an impact, to leave a legacy,
Oh,
if they
they're
had
much better,
access to
much better.
so much better?
Absolutely.
And would they have rested better? Would they have built more? Would they have contributed more? Would they have been
Absolutely.
more at ease?
Absolutely. More children, more of everything, of course, things were different in Iran in the late 70s, beginning of 80s. With the new regime coming in 79, things really became bad for women. Uh, that's why you see so many Iranians have left the country, regardless of their, faith of religion. It's just there's no freedom there. And so being oppressed doesn't help.
How do you believe that your network, the women in your network, the 50 plus women, 50 plus age wise women in your network, your clients, your friends, your community, could benefit by learning to create an impact legacy? How do you believe they could benefit from that?
They can definitely create an impact and learn amazing things because a lot of women, in my opinion, think they can't do something because they've been told they can't do it, right?
The
So
taboo.
yeah, it's a taboo. And so by going through workshops, by learning their power and their gift that they're given, they can make a huge impact in their own lives and their lives of their surroundings. So whenever I have a client or family or friend that tells me, "Oh, I can't do this because I'm a woman," I disagree with them, and I kind of take a step back and kind of say, "Oh, what are you talking about? You can definitely do X, Y, and Z. You just gotta put your mind to it. That's all it is. You know, it's just it's all in your head."
Is it
in
all
my
in the head,
opinion.
or is it also a lack of resource and access to resources?
I think it's in your head, lack of resources, lack of access, and lack of knowledge and information. So when you have resources, good information, good intel, good knowledge, it brings up your confidence level to a level that you've never seen before.
Beyond confidence, it also brings just the simple framework of knowing what to do, how to do it, when to do it.
Exactly. How to handle a
Um,
situation.
so I want to give you an open mic moment right now, to just fill in once again. I know I'm pushing hard here, but it's really important to us to be able to serve the women here in Southern California that maybe have that mindset that they're on autopilot, that maybe have the mindset that they're not able to get to the legacy that they want to build, that they are spinning in place, that they've tried everything. What do you have to say to them?
I would say to them that get out of your comfort zone. A lot of times people are in the comfort zone and they're happy with that, but they have no idea the talent and gift that they have in them that they can offer to their surroundings, their family, their colleagues, their their clients, and they're in their circle. So I always tell people to get out of your comfort zone. You know, get out there and really test yourself, challenge yourself. There's no such thing as a no. You know, uh, people need to go out there and challenge themselves, and I think that with workshops and with information and intel that are given, people realize, wow, I can do X, Y, and Z and still be a good wife or a good mom or a good girlfriend or a good fiance and still run a big business. It's all about giving them the tools that they need um, to be able to build their future and their legacy.
And finally, do you agree or disagree, or what's your comment on the difference between financial wealth legacy and family legacy and just leaving an impact on society?
I believe in all, but there are steps. In order to have a legacy, you have to have a family legacy and a wealth legacy. When you have those two put together, then you can have an actual future legacy that you can live on to your children, and then they can carry the torch, whether it's through business or any other ventures that you were involved in.
And as we are about to go to our second Seder in a couple of hours, if you're not Jewish, we hope that you're supporting our community in these hard times. If you're not Iranian, we hope that you're supporting the US and democracy. This is our personal opinion. Not everybody agrees with us. But as we go into the second Seder tonight, on this very unusual, in the time that we're in, to the women that aren't free, to the women that want to build a legacy and don't have that freedom, we hope that they get it. But there's a lot of people that are free. They're here free in the United States to be able to build what they want to build, but they're prisoners in their own minds. So,
Exactly.
to end that note, how do you wrap that up between the second night of Pesach, what's going on in Iran, and the freedom we have here in the United States?
Well, I always pray for world peace. I always pray for everyone's well-being and health. And to the women that think they can't do it, it's a light, it's a switch that needs to turn on. And they have the power within themselves through workshops and information and intel to be able to turn that light on, that click on, and realize that they can offer a lot more to their family, friends, colleagues in the world than what they have been doing. Um, because many people are suppressed without even
And
knowing.
then they can go to you with their wealth and their impact to get the best mortgage opportunities, and if they
Absolutely.
need a body shop, to get it. So PJ, what's the name of the body shop? Because I don't even know the name of it. I know that you guys serve the California Highway Patrol on an exclusive account or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. And so basically, the name of the shop is Star Collision in Reseda, which is
It's
a
what?
Star Collision,
In
STAR
Reseda.
Star in Reseda.
Star
That's
Collision.
Yeah, that's co-owned by myself and my uncle, my younger uncle, and we help clients with all types of vehicles that they have, whether it's a Highline or a regular vehicle involved in a car accident. We can assist them with the repairs of that, with their loaner cars, towing. and so on and so forth. I love what I do. And the amazing thing is about trust. A lot of my mortgage clients become my body shop clients, and a lot of my body shop clients become mortgage clients. Again, people love to do business with who they like and trust. And so it's all about building trust with your surroundings. And once you have the trust established, everything else comes together and falls into place.
And finally, like, a lot of people think a mortgage is a mortgage. It's a
It's
point up, it's a point up, it's a point down, it's a this or it's that. But you've got a couple of unique differentials, especially with our nationwide presence. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so depending on the person's needs, we can customize a particular loan to the client's needs, whether they're looking to buy a property, whether it's residential, commercial, land, or if they need a construction loan. And the importance of that is to be able to have the knowledge that I have of 24 years of knowing what investor I can use or work with to help the client meet their goals, meet their expectations and beyond, and to help them get to where they want to go. And by helping people that way, that's where the referrals come in. And a lot of banks are very cookie cutter. They don't customize programs, and every client I've worked with has a different financial situation. So based on that, we're able to customize a particular loan that meets their criteria and will get their job done and meet their goals of what they're looking to attribute.
When you're choosing a service provider for something that's kind of a commodity, you're always looking for that unique differential. And if I can say anything to anybody out there, PJ, like I said, he blew the roof off the house the first day I met him. And what I've learned through, the last year and a half or something like that, is your involvement in community, your dedication to service, your dedication to community, your dedication to humanity, and just being there for everybody. And I think that's just a wonderful trait. And if it was the women in your life that backed that through nurturing, like you said, then hats off to them. Hats
Thank
off
you.
to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you've done a great job, and I'm proud to know you and to have you as a
It's a
friend.
pleasure. Likewise, David. Thank you for having me. You're an amazing person. Your workshops are a gift to everybody, especially women that are going to be taking your classes and your gift workshops. I've seen you in action. I've read about you. I've learned about your goals, and you're such a beautiful person inside and out. And you're always there to help people um, realize the gift that they have that's been turned off because of their uprising. And I think that you're like an angel. You have a little sprinkle that you have and that you put on people, and you have a beautiful personality, and people love you because you're very, outgoing and you're talkative and you're down to earth. And I think that anyone that takes your workshops will realize uh, the impact that it will make in their lives, not just now, but the future. And that future becomes the legacy that they'll leave behind to their heirs, their children, their grandchildren.
Thank you, PJ. I love the word sprinkle. It reminded me of like one of those Randy donuts. Just just a calorie-free version of it. All right. So, you guys, this is Debbie Farman. I'm out with another episode of GAPCAST. Thank you, PJ, for being
Thank you. Thank
here.
you for having me. It's a pleasure.
And it
Thank
was
you.
a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so
All
much.
right.